One of the most interesting things to happen following the release of David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy has been the reevaluation by some people of Rob Zombie's Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Hey, what is up everybody? It's Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Rob Zombie's Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Now, if you're familiar with me and my channel, you know I'm a fan of these movies. You know these were almost like my introduction into Halloween in a big way. See, in 2007, when Rob Zombie's Halloween was about to come out, I was 13 years old, and I was just getting into the Halloween movies. So the first Halloween theatrical experience I had was Rob Zombie's Halloween, and this movie blew me away. I loved it. I couldn't wait to get on the internet, to get on MySpace and talk about it after the movie. And then 2 years later, when Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 came out, I noticed there was a much more muted response to this movie. There weren't a ton of fans of this movie, but I was blown away by it. I remember sitting in that theater and hearing people like laugh and snicker and like talk amongst each other as they were watching this, and I was like, how are people not into this? This thing is incredible. I understand that I was on an island, because when Rob Zombie was announced to remake the original Halloween, it pissed a ton of people off. Look, there is one thing about certain horror fans that we just need to say loudly and clearly. There is a purist sect of people that believe you should never remake something. Remakes are going to be inherently weaker than the original film, and they serve no purpose. They are just a soulless cash grab. Now, in fairness, that has been true sometimes, but that is not always the case. And I never looked at Rob Zombie's Halloween that way. Look, if you knew anything about Rob Zombie, growing up, I listened to White Zombie. I listened to Rob Zombie. I loved the guy. I loved House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. It was very obvious that this guy had a flair for the theatric, for horror films, for just everything horrific and macabre in life. Rob Zombie was a very eccentric, out there dude. So when he was announced to be the director of a Halloween retelling almost, I was really excited for it. Because if nothing else, I knew that it was going to be a unique spin. It wasn't going to be a shot-for-shot remake. And then when the movie came out, not only is the first half almost of this movie entirely new, but even the back half of the movie, while a lot of it is recreating John Carpenter's film, it is different. Certain things happen in different situations. Certain characters live that didn't live in the original. He still added unique originality to a story that at the time was 30 years old. But it pissed a lot of the fan base off, because a lot of the fans said, we don't need reasons for why Michael Myers does what he does. And I happen to agree with that. But I didn't mind to see kind of an alternate reality of, well, okay, let's say Michael had a motive. What would that motive have been? Instead of Michael being this soulless, mindless killer that just snapped one day for no reason, what if we put him in a real world situation? Look, bullying and broken homes are always going to be topical. It sucks to admit, but it's true. So Rob taking that approach with Michael Myers, I thought it was unique. Now, as the years have gone on, I have been on record as to say that I don't particularly love the first half of this movie. While I did the first few times I watched it, I much prefer Rob Zombie's take on John Carpenter's classic. Not so much Rob Zombie's new telling of the story. Now, having said that, overall I think the film is really solid, and I find myself watching it every October. Then Halloween 2 came out, and the purists were even more angry. Because for whatever reason, there was this belief, and go back in time to 2009 before this movie came out. Everybody was calling this a remake of Halloween 2. It was never billed as that. It was a sequel to Rob's movie, because Rob's first movie did not at all end like the original Halloween. But people were running with that, and that annoyed me to begin with. But if a lot of the purists took issue with what Rob did in his first movie, he went way off the deep end for them in this one. See, this is hardly a Halloween movie. Sure, you have Laurie Strode, you have Michael Myers, and Haddonfield, Dr. Loomis, and that's really it. Yeah, Sheriff Brackett and Annie, I guess, but you know what I mean. This is an entirely different world. Rob Zombie painted this nightmarish PTSD exploration of trauma, looked at Laurie Strode and the survivors of that first movie and basically said, what if things didn't get better? What if they got worse? What if the darkness overtook you? What if we saw our characters seemingly doing well, only to realize as the movie goes on, oh, no, they're not doing well. They're completely broken, and this guy's going to show back up again and just ruin everything. Everybody that survived the last time, you're going to die. Like, it is such a nihilistic approach to filmmaking, especially in the Halloween franchise. But I loved it. Because how many times do we see in movies that the good guys win, or they overcome their fears or their traumas, or they beat the bad guy? And Rob Zombie's take on this is basically like, no, that's kind of bullshit. Like, that's fairy tale, like, oh yeah, everything's great in the end. I mean, if this were a real scenario, Halloween 2 is probably more like what would happen. Honestly, you are outmatched by this guy. There's nothing you can do. Try to repair. Try to pick yourself back up. It's not going to work. And you look at Dr. Loomis, somebody that got another 15 seconds of fame after what happened in the original Halloween. And what did he do? He got greedy. He got overzealous. This movie really looked at human nature for, I think, the way it actually is more often than not. And a lot of people take issue with that because, again, I said it's very nihilistic. It's definitely not something that's hopeful or cheery or is going to make you smile from ear to ear watching it. No, it's going to challenge you. It's going to make you think. It's going to make you face the real ugly truths about this world and about trauma and about mental health and loss and grieving. And it's awesome. But I could go on and on about these movies, and I've done many videos on these movies. But my point in today's video was, ever since David Gordon Green's movies came out, everybody has begun to reassess these movies. And I've talked a lot about this with Christian, and I've always found it really interesting. See, I remember back then when so many people were railing against these movies. I was a member of the Halloween message board, the ohmb.net. And if any of you guys are in your 30s or 40s or even older and you remember that website, you remember just how many people loathed these films, especially Halloween 2. It was not popular to walk around and say you liked Rob Zombie's Halloween, let alone Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Everybody said that he killed the franchise. Shit, there was even some dude on YouTube that did this like whole video essay about how Rob Zombie destroyed the Halloween franchise. I don't know where that guy is now, but he's a freaking drama queen and a crybaby, and I always get a good laugh anytime I remind myself of that video. So why is it that the sentiment has begun to change? Well, I think it's a few things. First and foremost, I think that a lot of people initially thought that Rob Zombie tarnished something they loved, when now they can look at it and go, compared to what David Gordon Green did, at least Rob Zombie was trying something new. David Gordon Green just filled his movies with a bunch of callbacks and Easter eggs and homages, and it was just fanfare. And that's one issue that a lot of people had with the DGG trilogy, is that it just felt like fans making movies and not so much saying anything new. They also didn't like the handling of certain characters, whether that be Michael Myers, whether that be Laurie Strode. There were issues they had with directions that these characters took after decades of knowing these characters. So I guess it made it easier for them to separate Rob Zombie's movies at that point because, oh, you know what? At least this was like an alternate universe. What the hell are these movies? These are supposed to be direct sequels. How dare you, David Gordon Green? How dare you disrespect Halloween? Another reason for it, and I'm just going to plainly call it out, is people looking for attention. People were wanting to jump on the bandwagon now that they're seeing others admit that they like these movies. People that railed against these movies for almost 2 decades made their entire personalities about how Rob Zombie was a trash filmmaker and how he bastardized Halloween are now all of a sudden wanting to post about how they love these movies and, oh, they were misunderstood. And honestly, that really gets under my skin because people like me have been at the forefront defending these movies for years and years and years while you shit all over them. And now that you're seeing it's popular to like them, you're wanting to jump on that train. It's honestly really, really sad. Anybody with eyes and a brain can see that it's incredibly disingenuous. Everybody can see what you're doing. And that's not to say that it's not okay to change your mind on movies. It absolutely is. But 99 times out of 100, when you change your mind on a movie or you warm up to a movie, you didn't go from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. Most of the time when somebody warms up to a movie, it's like, you know, I didn't really care much for it, whatever, I forgot about it, I blocked it out of my memory, and I'm kind of coming around to it. That's understandable. But going from these movies suck, the people that like these movies are stupid, they don't know Halloween, Rob Zombie destroyed Halloween, to, you know what, these are kind of cool. That's just bullshit. Another reason is I think that people are actually starting to see that there's a lot to like in these movies. Tyler Mane is great as Michael Myers. Malcolm McDowell is great as Dr. Loomis. Scout Taylor Compton is really, really good as Laurie Strode. I'd say in Halloween 2, she's great as Laurie Strode. Danielle Harris is great as Annie Brackett. Brad Dourif is great as Sheriff Brackett. There's a lot to love about these movies. The cinematography, the atmosphere, the music, it's all there. So while it may not be your preferred route to take Michael Myers, you have to admire the craftsmanship. These aren't low-budget fan movies. No, these are big-budget, loving projects. Rob Zombie really put his heart into these things, and it really shows. And then I think the most obvious reason why people are coming around to them these days is because they're not the most recent anymore. See, over the last couple years, the great debate has raged whether or not people are going to come around to Halloween Ends as time goes on. And I am firmly in the camp that they will, simply just because I think a lot of the hatred for it is because it is the most recent. We notice this throughout history. The most recent iterations of characters, they're going to have the strongest opinions levied at them or against them because they are the most recent that we have been able to consume. When Rob Zombie's movies were the most recent, they were the talk of the town. The haters were out in full force, and those that loved it were out in full force. And now that they're not the talk of the town, it's a lot easier to focus on other ones and go, you know what, those ones aren't too bad. Look, I didn't make this video to convince you guys that Rob Zombie's Halloween movies are good. No, not at all. I genuinely don't care if you like them or not. I am 30 years old. I have liked these movies since they came out. Although my opinions over time have slightly weakened on the original and grown increasingly stronger on his sequel, I still have a lot of love for these movies. And I don't ever feel like I have to defend myself or explain myself because I've been at the forefront of this on social media and on YouTube since I began posting stuff. So I'm not jumping onto a bandwagon to get clout or get attention, to get likes, to get people to notice me. No, I have sung these movies' praises for years and years and years. And honestly, as somebody that was one of the few years ago that got so much shit for it, it really does kind of make me angry these days that so many people think it's now a hot, trendy thing to jump onto. You don't get to do that. You stood in your ivory tower and talked shit about people like me that liked these movies. Well, if you're like me that have liked these movies forever, be proud of it. Wear that proudly and never, ever, ever back down from the opportunity to remind everybody else, hey, I saw this from the beginning. I saw these movies for what they were. I saw what they had to offer. I don't need to now jump onto a trend. No, I've been here since the beginning, damn it. Fact of the matter is, I'm actually really happy that Rob Zombie's movies are not the ones that are in the crosshairs anymore. As much as I love Halloween Ends, I'm kind of glad it took a lot of the heat off of these movies. And one of the coolest things that's happened to me on YouTube is when I've made multiple videos defending one of my favorite horror films of all time, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I have gotten so many comments from people saying, you know, I was lukewarm on this, or I didn't care, or I blocked it out of my memory, and you've really made me see this movie for what it's trying to be, and I love it now. Those are my favorite comments in the world, because I'm not trying to get you to agree with me, I'm just trying to get you to see what the filmmaker was trying to tell you. I think sometimes with certain films, or just forms of art in general, it's important to understand where the filmmaker's coming from, and maybe have it explained to you sometimes of what this means or what that means. And sometimes that can make a world of difference. Look, if you're a fan of these movies, I love you. I've loved you for years. You've probably talked to me in my comment sections about your love for these movies. If you've come around to these movies in recent years, that's great, man. I am really, really happy to hear that, and I'm glad you finally see the light. But let me say this again loudly and clearly for all those in the back. If you spent most of your adult life trashing these movies, don't tuck tail now. Don't turn around and change up now. Stick to your guns, because we see you, we heard a lot of your shit, and we're never gonna forget. These movies are very, very good, and it is about damn time that the world is starting to see them for what they are, and that is some of the better Halloween films in the franchise. Period, point blank, mic drop. I would drop it, but I don't want to break it. Look, guys, that is my dissertation on why I think Rob Zombie's Halloween movies are getting more love these days. And also my rant on the fake fans. Yeah, the fake fans. I'm allowed to. I'm a Halloween guy. Look the hell around you, okay? Look at my channel. If someone's allowed to talk about Halloween fans in the franchise, it's me, damn it. But I want to hear down below in the comment section what you guys think. Have you always been fans of these movies and defended them since the very beginning? Have you been someone that was kind of mixed fixed on them, but they grew on you over time? Have you just never been a fan and you're proudly willing to stand here still today and say, no, I'm not a fan? And guess what? If you are, I still respect the shit out of that. You don't have to like these, but stick to your damn guns. Whatever it is, I want to hear down below in the comment section. Please leave a like on this rant. Subscribe to my channel if you want more Halloween rants. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.